and welcome to another edition of the Brooklyn Bronco Beat. Today, Broncos beat the Lions, but that's not the story. In between our last episode and today, the Denver Broncos lost truly one of their greatest talents, one of their greatest wide receivers, and just a huge fan favorite. And to start the show, no disrespect to the Detroit Lions, despite the season they're having. Broncos handle business, but this first 20 minutes, we're going to talk about the late, great Deymarius Thomas. And to start things off, my panel today is Todd Tharp and David Lee. David, guys, how you guys doing?
Good, man. Good to be back.
Good to be back. It's tragic. What are your takes? How will you remember Deymarius Thomas? What does he mean to you guys as Bronco fans?
Go ahead, Todd.
Well, back when we were living in the Bay Area, we went to C.J. Anderson's football camp for kids. I took my son, and the first year he was having it, don't remember what year, Deymarius actually showed up, and he was just smiling and stuff, and he just looked like a kid himself. He was just out there with all the kids, running around, throwing passes and stuff, and laughing with the kids, and taking pictures. And then afterwards, he was off working with Benny Fowler. They're doing some sprints. And we walked over to him, and he just immediately stopped, and he walked over to my son. And I said, "Can I take a picture?" And he goes, Sure. And he just put his arm around my son and, big smile. It's kind of like he was like a very gentle giant. He just a very warm personality and everything, and then you hear about everything off the field that he did for charities and the way he treated people. I just really felt like his on the field spoke one way, but his off the field was much bigger than what people had known him for. And I know we're going to miss him.
Yeah, man, that's as we talked about kind of prior to the show starting. As you can tell, I got my guy Deymarius Thomas jersey behind me. He's actually my first jersey. Well, not my first wearable jersey. My first jersey, obviously mounted on the wall. But as Todd said, the one thing that, since we got Deymarius Thomas, as a Broncos fan, you're excited during draft time. So you're like, what kind of good players are we going to draft? When he was drafted, being that size and his speed, it was instantly, a kind of love at first sight for a Broncos fan, because you're like, okay, another good weapon. We had Brandon Marshall before, and now we have Deymarius Thomas. And watching, at the beginning of his career, you wanted it to pan out. Anytime you draft a player, you want it to pan out well. And with his size and speed, he became a huge fan favorite. We can talk all day about his skills on the field. But as Todd mentioned, people fell in love with him because of the man he was. And I even watching videos of Deymarius Thomas, and I remember back in the days early on, I'm like, he was not the Dez Bryant. He was the opposite of Dez Bryant, but with the same numbers. So he was putting up stats, but he wasn't the loudmouth guy. He didn't care about being the number one guy. He didn't care about being the superstar that was all over the news and TV. He just came to play. And that's rare, rare for a wide receiver, because wide receivers and quarterbacks are usually divas. So for Deymarius to come in and be just be another guy in the locker room, but be the charismatic guy that people kind of looked up to. And as a Broncos fan, I'm not going to lie, I wanted him to be the more rowdy, rough guy, but that wasn't him. He just wanted to be a good ball player. And just watching the video, obviously he touched a lot of people's lives, just being a good guy. Not even just a good player, but being a good guy. So, and it's hard not to root for a guy, listening to his whole story and upbringing, and, you absolutely want to root for him. And so it's sad, super sad in Broncos country. And obviously not even just Broncos country. I've seen this week how many players and other teams and fan bases around the league kind of jumped in the Broncos fan group and just offer their condolences and well wishes to Broncos fans. And you just don't see that. So that the kind of player Deymarius Thomas was for other teams and fan bases, including the Chiefs and Chargers and Raiders, fans to hop in our groups, to wish offer their condolences and offer well wishes to the family. So great player, will definitely be missed.
It's funny you mentioned the 2010 NFL draft, because when Deymarius Thomas's name came off the board, that was like, they have the insider there. And this was like the first time I really, around this time in my life, watching football and following the Broncos, this was the first time I was looking at draft boards. And I remember Des Bryant's name coming up, and I remember the Broncos trying to, I was like, all right, that might be the guy we get. And I know they need a wide receiver because Brandon Marshall flew to Miami. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the warm weather. I don't know. But when Deymarius Thomas' name gets called up, I'm like, interesting. And, I don't know college football like I know the NFL. So it was like, all right, maybe they see something in him. And your words, David, they saw him as Des Bryant. They saw him as a better version of Des Bryant. And you look at the two careers, and this is not a knock on Des Bryant. This is more so a knock on the Cowboys, not to make light of the situation, but you saw how Des Bryant's career played out in Dallas. You see how Demaryius Thomas's career played out in Denver. You see, like you just said, Demaryius Thomas was the no-nonsense guy. He stepped up in that role where that 2011 Bronco team, the Miracle Broncos that made it to the divisional round, and you see him, and at the time, Tim Tebow, you see them growing into what we thought was going to be like a quarterback wide receiver duo. The silver lining, Peyton Manning comes obviously, but obviously one of the biggest memories I have with Demaryius Thomas. And in New York City, when you root for a team outside of New York City, your team better back it up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, who are you playing? Who do you got? Like, you always pinpoint your talent. Like, this guy, we have Demaryius Thomas. He can run. He's big. He's he's your target. He's our number one target. And then I remember in high school, Broncos Steelers, everybody was like, congratulations, your team made it to the playoffs. Just that's all you're gonna get. And there's the no way. You're like, yeah. It was like, and the Giants, and it was for me personally, it was fitting that day. The Giants were hosting the Falcons in the early wild card slot. Broncos Steelers main event of that day. And it was like, everybody was updating me because I had a basketball game. I was like, Broncos are up like 14-6. Broncos are taking care of business. And I had flashbacks of the 2005 AFC Championship, because prior to that was the last playoff game the Broncos had. They were on the doorstep of the Super Bowl, and then it went into a 5-year drought. And it was like, all right, how apropos, we're playing the Steelers again. And I remember it was a nail-biting finish. And then the first play, and this Thomas stiff arm on Ike Taylor. You could hear me from the Freedom Tower that night. My English was incomprehensible just from like the hype, and that's when I knew. It's when I knew Demaryius Thomas was going to be the fan favorite. He was the hero. He was the walk-off king. And then I'm still to this day, I'm sorry how they iced Tim Tebow, and like how Peyton Manning, and it paid off for Peyton Manning to get here. And then Peyton Manning, and I wonder if that 2011 game was part of the reason why Peyton Manning said he's one of the reasons I came here. So that kind of gave me chills. It wasn't location or the quarterback club with John Elway. It was the talent that he would have been able to work with. And we saw it. We saw Demaryius Thomas. We saw him shine. He caught Peyton Manning's record 509th touchdown. There were times where, this is all in love. When the 2014 divisional round, the Broncos just trying to say, all right, that Super Bowl last year was not us. We had a brain fart that day. And that whole wide receiver core got a case of the drops, and it became a epidemic within Demaryius Thomas's playing ability into the 2015 season. And one thing that shines out of that was the Patriots regular season game that year, where Patriots came in undefeated. Brock Osweiler takes the reins, and Demaryius Thomas was dropping passes all night. It was like, what are we doing? Come on, this is not how we have to play against an undefeated Patriots team. And then on one last drive to try and take the lead before the upcoming drive where the Pats forced overtime, Brock Osweiler loads it up, and Deymarius Thomas leaps up, and he grabs that ball. And what a way to end your drought that night was to set the Broncos up for a 1st and goal situation or a 1st and 10 deep into Patriot territory, 1 of the 2. And, just get over it and just find the way to help the team win. Probably one of the biggest regular season wins in the history of the Denver Broncos, because if it weren't for that, who knows if the Broncos had a shot at the 1 seed? Who knows if the Broncos would be hosting the Patriots in Denver for the rematch in the AFC Championship? Yep. And to say that he's part of it, he's part of the culture. He's part of the lore. Even I was listening to the Bronco game on Sunday because I was working, and you hear Dave Logan say the only person he was second to in all these categories was Rod Smith. And honestly, I put them neck and neck. As far as the wide receiver goes, it's Rod Smith and Deymarius Thomas.
Yeah,
like it was truly a great player. Aside from my 2 guests tonight, I've opened the floor to other Bronco fans, whether they've been on the show or not. Just want to say their piece. Joining in now, patiently waiting. We're waiting for him to come on, connecting to audio. Is Walter from Atlanta. Walter, how you doing? Thanks for coming on.
What's going on, Andrew?
Not much. Briefly, while we have you on here, what's one memory you have of Deymarius Thomas?
Me personally, I met him at Lennox, they're here in Atlanta, and it was like, he knew me for like years, and it was like a conversation. It was a year he got franchise tag, and I was asking him how the contract was going and if it was gonna get done. He was like, yeah, and he was truthful about it, and it got done that year. So, and that was one of the memories I'm gonna definitely take with me to my grave.
That's cool, man.
Now mentioning you're from Georgia, so Deymarius Thomas played collegiate football in Georgia. So what's the level of emotion, at least as far as the collegiate level, or as far as what Deymarius Thomas meant to the state of Georgia?
Well, on the radio they was talking about it. On I know his high school was like towards the middle of Georgia. But I watched him in college because he went to my college, Georgia Tech. So I got to watch him at Georgia Tech, and he was like, the Yellow Jackets, they ran a triple offense, so it was like a running style offense, and he still got 1,000 yards receiving. That's unheard of. So. That's the kind of athlete he was, for that team.
Before we let you go, how long till Deymarius Thomas is in the Ring of Fame?
Oh, he's in there next year. No question about it.
Next year,
no question about
no 5-year waiting period.
No question about it. I don't think they have to wait 5 years. I mean, if you ask me, does he belong in the Ring of Fame? It's yes. I mean, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Walter, thank you for joining us. Well, hopefully we'll have you on for a full episode next time.
Thank you. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy. So crazy. As he was just telling that story, I remember when his contract was, when he got franchised, I'm like, franchise tag. I'm like, oh God, please Denver, don't do something stupid, man. Don't do something stupid. And obviously he's one of your best players again. And he was one of the very few in the league at that time, especially in that time period when you had Ray Rice going on. You had, Des Bryant sagas. You had so many players in the league getting in trouble for nonsense. And I remember John Elway saying, I want Broncos players who want to be here. I want guys who want to be a Bronco and not just guys who's just looking for a payday. And that's why he eventually got paid like a top tier receiver as he was. My question though to you though, guys, is I heard Peyton Manning's interview where Peyton Manning said he's a Hall of Famer. Do you think that he, with his numbers, I know he just was just below 10,000 receiving yards, but do you think his resume gets him into the Hall of Fame?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He was a core part of probably one of the most dynamic record-setting offenses in NFL history. If it wasn't just Peyton Manning, it was a whole team. Peyton Manning's targets in Indianapolis have made it in already. Why not Deymarius Thomas?
Shoot, imagine if Peyton Manning had Deymarius Thomas his entire career.
Yeah.
Imagine if Peyton Manning was a Bronco his entire career.
Yeah.
Um,
because didn't Deymarius Thomas, did he start with Tebow as his quarterback?
He did.
Tebow and then Kyle Orton.
Kyle Orton then Tebow.
Yeah, so I really felt like, if he would have had that quality passing quarterback his whole career, I mean, his stats probably would have been through the roof. And, like you guys were saying, that was the reason why Manning went to Denver. I mean, when Manning was with the Colts, I mean, his number one wide receiver was Marvin Harris. And he wasn't that big. And I was trying to think of who the other guy, his other receivers were, but it was the typical like John Elway when he was trying to win a Super Bowl. All of his wide receivers were small and stuff, and that was kind of the same with Peyton Manning there with the Colts. And so, of course, he was looking at Denver, and you had Eric Decker and you had Deymarius Thomas, which are two big wide receivers. So I think if Deymarius had that passer, his full career, his stats would have been through the roof. But I think he'll be a Hall of Fame. I think there might be some discussion and stuff on it, but I think he should go in.
6'3", ran a 4.4. That guy was, that's a big dude. Had people on skates multiple times. I think you guys made some valid points actually. Thinking about that because the time the Broncos in 2015 was like the record-setting year when Peyton Manning had 55 touchdowns, right?
2013.
So, 2013. That's right. Yeah. 2013. Man, goodness gracious! There's no way that you can't even talk to some of the best offenses in history without mentioning that team and the guys on that team, and obviously Deymarius was a big part of that. It's crazy, man. I can definitely see the argument now, and his stats are comparable with the best. I think if Terrell Davis got in there, I think you can definitely throw Deymarius in there.
Yeah.
So
well, Terrell Davis also had a league MVP and was part of
that's true. Although I will say, all right, it's difficult because you remember you had Antonio Brown. It was literally Antonio Brown, Des Bryant, not even Julio. Well, Julio Jones was there too, and Deymarius Thomas. Like those guys were the most elite wide receivers in the league at that time. And people forget Denver ran the ball quite a bit too. We had No-Show Moreno, we had Monte Ball, we had Lance Ball too. We had obviously CJ Anderson in those years. We had we've had quite a bit of running backs, and Denver definitely ran the ball quite a bit. So prior to Peyton Manning, even Tim Tebow's seasons, Tim ran the ball, quite a bit. It was a different offense. So I just can't imagine what his career would have been even earlier had they, passed more. But it's the guy is only a year older than I am. For him to lose his life at 33, man, about to be 34 and here at Christmas time, it's heartbrearning. And
I get chills all the time. I'm approaching my 30s not too far from now. So
man, it's crazy. It reminds you, not even just as a sports fan, as a person, just man, life is short. Life is super short. I think the disappointing thing to me as not only a Broncos fan and a Deymarius Thomas fan, but the lies and the rumors that I've seen going on online, they get people using his name for all nonsense. That have nothing. They just making up conspiracy theories of why why he passed away. And I finally heard today that he had a car accident last year, and his injuries led to him having seizures, and so he didn't even want to be left alone. So, it's sad at this point that, like I said, people would kind of use a guy like Deymarius, who didn't care about being in the center of attention and spotlight from anyone, to just drag this guy's name. Too much of a good guy to do that to. So, just disappointing.
Go ahead, Andrew.
My question was, does 88 go up behind the south end zone along with 7, 40, and 44 and 18?
Go ahead.
That's a tough one, because I was thinking about that the other day, and I think he'll be in the Ring of Fame. I don't think that's a question, but you look up there there's only 3 numbers that are retired. And I mean, if Terrell Davis isn't up there, his number isn't retired, then it's going to be hard. Or, Shannon Sharp, it's going to be hard to put 88 up there. But I think Deymarius Thomas will be in the Ring of Fame.
Yeah.
That's
fair.
The big thing with Deymarius Thomas, and as David was saying about him, is you looked at him on the field, and he wasn't this diva wide receiver. He wasn't the type that was in the media saying, I need the ball. He wasn't, causing problems in the locker room, anything like this. He was one of these rare wide receivers that was just a team player, and he was always there for his team and stuff. And you're really glad to see that, especially having a son and everything. Those are the type of players you want your kids to look up to, is the way he was.
Deymarius Thomas, 88, wide receiver. This one's for Deymarius. Guys, mile high salute. We'll be back with a preview of the Broncos' upcoming matchup against the Bengals.
Are you against players getting paid? No. Is that what it is? Are you against that? Are you against capitalism?
That's an old. What? What are you talking about? What?
Someone in their 40s and 50s.
Come on, man. We gotta make sure. we gotta make sure. You know what I'm saying? We gotta make sure that we in the building when we. You know what I'm saying? No, stop it.
Wait, he's not on the list, but he plays in Dome?
He does not belong in Mount Rushmore. He plays in
Play indoors. Dan Marino plays in Miami.
And welcome back to the Brooklyn Bronco Beat. Order of business. Broncos win last week. Now they approach the gauntlet. It's the Bengals, followed by the remainder of the AFC West games, and both teams sitting at 7-6. This game might as well be a playoff game, the way both teams are tied at 7-6. And a lot of playoff implications. Plus, we see Joe Burrow for the first time.
We look at the Lions, and I kind of feel like we're on that roller coaster again. It's like, we're playing a bad team. We should beat them up. And it's exactly back to like Jacksonville, we play them, we beat them, and we beat them by a lot. But then we turn around next week, here we're playing a tough game. And it's like, I don't know what to expect. What Broncos team is going to show up? Because it seems like every time we play one of these tough teams that we should win against, we implode and stuff. And our run game looked really good this last week. I think it was 184 yards between Gordon and Javonte Williams. But our passing game just didn't seem like it was there. I think I saw something like Cortland Sutton had 1 reception this last week. So I'm really nervous about. I don't know much about the Bengals defense, but I'm really worried that Joe Burrow and Chase that they're really going to run up the score on us, and we're going to have a hard time keeping up with them, because if they get out in front of us and Teddy Bridgewater needs to start throwing it more rather than running it, that's where we have the problem and stuff.
The thing about the Bengals too is that you don't know which Bengal team is going to show up either. They're having a case of schizophrenia with their team too, even though they're in better shape. But a win makes the Broncos sit a little bit more comfortable as we approach the Week 18 mark.
I think honestly, I feel more optimistic about this. I know it's the Bengals and they have elite receivers and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase. They just have a lot of options, and obviously Joe Mixon on the ground, so they have great options. The thing is, why I'm optimistic about Denver's team is we're actually getting healthy at the right time. And early on, it was frustrating because we had a lot of guys down on the offensive line, and we had, our linebacking core and our corners getting hurt. But we're actually getting healthy, and we're actually, kind of gaining an identity for the first time. Think about those games where we blew out Dallas or we blew out the Chargers. You know what the common denominator was in that game? The run game. The run game we destroyed with Javonte Williams in a mix between and Melvin Gordon for some games, and then and obviously Boone. But I think with Pat Shurmur, the bigger question is not which Bronco team shows up; it's which offensive play calling that we get for this game. So that's what I think has a greater impact. I am confident with our defense. Our defense has been amazing the last couple of weeks, except for the blown plays opportunities in the Chiefs game, which I think that was a disappointing. We could have had a couple of interceptions in the Chiefs game. We should have had more turnovers, but we did not. But we definitely didn't capitalize on offense, so that was the disappointing thing. So I do agree with Todd. You don't know with the passing game, so I'm confident in our defense and I'm confident in our running ability against the Bengals, but I'm not confident in our passing game. That is for sure. I think the use of the tight ends, the use of elite weapons that we have, that's disappointing. And what I've noticed, because we're not using the offensive weapons that we have, you're seeing drop spot players. Your chemistry, you build chemistry throughout the season when you're playing live reps against, good defenses. And when you're not having Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton, your number one receiver, catching passes live in game action, your timing gets off. Because you're not having time like the offseason to just go fly across the country and just get those good reps.
And
then during the week,
they're using Noah Fant more.
Yes, that's true. Although I like Albert O better. This is the question I think at some point in your show, I think not today, but is a better question for Denver's future moving forward. I think Noah Fant, I think eventually he might get phased out because as far as the tight end, I love Noah Fant. I have a Noah Fant jersey downstairs. But Albert O looks like the more dominant tight end. He's a bigger, more aggressive tight end. He doesn't just fall off to the catch. So, kind of wrap my and summarize, I do think Denver pulls this one out. I think our defense pulls it out. I think we'll get to Joe Burrow more this year. This game, and our run game. If we just pound the rock and play good defense, that's our recipe.
Plus your
and then
home. Who knows how Joe Burrow will handle the altitude? I always say
that's true.
Every time the Broncos have a tough game, I say they're home. They play in the altitude. Todd, any closing remarks?
The only concern on our defense I'm having is our linebacking core, because I think we're bringing up a guy named Griffith and Williamson now. I mean, we're on our third or fourth string linebackers now. So
Griffith is good though.
Yeah, they're looking good. I'm just hoping that we can keep the pressure on it. I get really worried now when we're bringing in these guys from the practice squad that nobody's ever heard of. So, but true. The rest of the team is young. They've got they've got no expectations, and that makes them dangerous. You know, when you're this team that nobody's expecting to do well as a defensive unit,
Yeah.
you know, they have nothing to lose but to go out there and ball, and that's what they're doing.
Right.
Nothing left to lose. I've been preaching it for the last couple of weeks, but now you gotta play with that as your primary MO, because after this, it only gets tougher. This is the playoffs. This is it.
Yep.
You're in the playoffs to get to the playoffs.
That's right.
Where are you guys watching the game on Sunday?
Oh, I'll be right here. So it's been my last couple weeks been crazy. I was in Tennessee and then I got back and then my wife had play. I've been here, man. So unless you guys are you guys doing something this week, Todd?
Yeah, we moved over to Duckworth's in Waverly,
Okay.
which is
North Carolina.
North Carolina, east of Valentine and stuff. And we get about 6 to 8 people in there and stuff. So we'll be there for the game.
Okay, I guess
What
I'll
he's
join you
trying to
guys.
say is he can get more.
Yep. It's growing. We just started it this year, but it's growing.
I like
Cool.
to thank Todd and Dave for coming on and doing the show tonight.
Of course.
Thank you.
That's it for today's show. I will like to conclude today's show with a reminder that Broncos are the greatest team to follow. They're nerve-wracking, they're full of anxiety, and it's the players that contribute to that. Sunday's up for football. Deymarius Thomas was one of the greatest Denver Broncos I ever got to play. I'm happy and blessed the man wore blue and orange 95% of his Sundays. So I just close by telling everybody, those close to you, tell them you love them. If there's beef, if there's stupid beef, let that shit, like Jason Williams said when Kobe Bryant died, let that shit go. We had family get finally rekindle after a big hiatus before the pandemic started. You know, football's family. When my friends come up to me, clowning my Broncos constantly, hanging out with them in New York City this past weekend, the first thing they said to me is, "Are you okay?" RIP-DT. And that shows no matter who we root for, football is family. Enjoy life. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
For the remainder of this show, we'll close with 88 seconds of silence. I'm Andrew Vanich. Take care.